At the beginning of the 18th century, there lived a daimyo called浅野内匠, the lord of the castle of Akko, in the province of Harima. Now it happened that an imperial ambassador from the court of the Mikado, having been sent to the shogun at Edo, Takumi no Kami and another noble called Kamei-sama were appointed to receive and feast the envoy. And a high official named Kira Kotsuke-no-suke was named to teach them the proper ceremonies to be observed upon the occasion. The two nobles were accordingly forced to go daily to the castle to listen to the instructions of Kotsuke-no-suke. But the Kotsuke-no-suke was a man greedy of money, and as he deemed that the presents with the two daimyo, according to time-honored custom, had brought him in return for his instruction, were mean and unworthy, he conceived a great hatred against them, and took no pains in teaching them, but on the contrary, rather sought to make laughing-stocks of them. Takumi no Kami, restrained by a stern sense of duty, bore his insults with patience. But Kamei-sama, who had less control over his temper, was violently incensed and determined to kill Kotsuke-no-suke. One night, when his duties at the castle were ended, Kamei-sama returned to his own palace, and having summoned his counselors to a secret conference, said to them, "Kotsuke-no-suke has insulted Takumi no Kami and myself during our service in attendance on the imperial envoy. This is against all decency, and I was minded to kill him on the spot. But it bethought me that if I did such a deed within the precincts of the castle, not only would my own life be forfeit, but my family and vassals would be ruined. So I stayed my hand. Still, the life in such a wretch is a sorrow to the people, and tomorrow, when I go to court, I'll slay him. My mind is made up, and I will listen to no remonstrance." And as he spoke, his face became livid with rage. Now, one of Kamei-sama's counselors was a man of great judgment, and when he saw from his lord's manner that remonstrance would be useless, he said, "Your lordship's words are law. Your servant will make all preparations accordingly. And tomorrow, when your lordship goes to court, if this Kotsuke-no-suke should again be insolent, let him die the death." And his lord was pleased at this speech, and waited with impatience for the day to break, that he might return to court and kill his enemy. But the counselor went home, was sorely troubled, and thought anxiously about what his prince had said. And as he reflected, it occurred to him that since Kotsuke-no-suke had the reputation of being a miser, he would certainly be open to bribe, and that it was better to pay any sum, no matter how great, and that his lord and his house should be ruined. So he collected all the money he could, and giving it to his servants to carry, rode off in the night of Kotsuke-no-suke's palace, and said to his retainers, "My master, who is now in attendance upon the imperial envoy, owes much thanks to my lord Kotsuke-no-suke, who has been at so great pains to teach him the proper ceremonies to be observed during the reception of the imperial envoy. This is but a shabby present which he has sent by me, but he hopes that his lordship will condescend to accept it, and commends himself to his lordship's favor." And with these words, he produced 1,000 ounces of silver for Kotsuke-no-suke, and 100 ounces to be distributed among his retainers. When the latter saw the money, their eyes sparkled with pleasure, and they were profuse in their thanks, and begging the counselor to wait a little. They went and told the master of the lordly present, which had arrived with a polite message from Kamei-sama. Kotsuke no Suke, in eager delight, sent for the counselor into an inner chamber, and after thanking him, promised on the morrow to instruct his master carefully in all the different points of etiquette. So the counselor, seeing the master's glee, rejoiced at the success of his plan, and having taken his leave, returned home in high spirits. But Kamei-sama, little thinking how his vassal had propitiated his enemy, lay brooding over his vengeance, and on the following morning at daybreak went to court in solemn procession. When Kotsuke no Suke met him, his manner had completely changed, and nothing could exceed his courtesy. "You have come earlier to court this morning, my lord Kamei," said he. "I cannot sufficiently admire your zeal. I shall have the honor to call your attention to several points of etiquette today. I must beg your lordship to excuse my previous conduct, which must have seemed very rude, but I'm naturally of a cross-grained disposition, so I pray you to forgive me." And as he kept on humbling himself and making fair speeches, the heart of Kamei-sama was gradually softened, and he renounced his intention of killing him. Thus, by the cleverness of his counselor, was Kamei-sama with all his house saved from ruin. Shortly after this, Takumi no Kami, who had sent no present, arrived at the castle, and Kotsuke no Suke turned him into ridicule even more than before, provoking him with sneer and covert insults. But Takumi no Kami affected to ignore all this and submitted himself patiently to Kotsuke no Suke's orders. This conduct, so far from producing good effect, only made Kotsuke no Suke despise him the more, until at last he said haughtily, "Here, my lord of Takumi, the ribbon of my sock has come untied. Be so good as to tie it up for me." Takumi no Kami, although burning with his rage at the affront, still thought that as he was on duty, he was bound to obey, and tied up the ribbon of the sock. Then Kotsuke no Suke, turning from him, petulantly exclaimed, "Why, how clumsy you are! You cannot so much as tie up the ribbon of a sock properly. Anyone can see that you are a boor from the country and know nothing the manner of Edo." And with a scornful laugh, he moved towards an inner room. But the patience of Takumi no Kami was exhausted. This last insult was more than he could bear. "Stop a moment, my lord," cried he. "Well, what is it?" replied the other. And he turned round. Takumi no Kami drew his dirk and aimed a blow at his head. But Kotsuke no Suke, being protected by the court cap which he wore, the wound was but a scratch. So he ran away, and Takumi no Kami, pursuing him, tried a second time to cut him down, but missing his aim, struck his dirk into a pillar. At this moment, an officer named Kajiwara Yosobe, seeing the affray, rushed up and holding back the infuriated noble, gave Kotsuke no Suke time to make good his escape.